All right, we'll bring this session of the Jericho Selectboard on October 3rd to session at 6:30 p.m. And as we usually start with public to be heard, and we'll read the comments that how the public can be heard anymore to make sure that people are new to the process, they understand it. In an effort to make meetings more effective and efficient, the Select Board has made a change to the public comment portion of the meeting. Citizens or others wishing to address the Select Board during a meeting may do so during the public comment portion of the meeting. And we start with a public comment for things that are not on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. All speakers will be heard before people are given a second opportunity to speak. Once the public comment portion of the meeting is over, the public will be able to speak if the chair determines their input is needed during another portion of the meeting. What we've done is do public comment at the end of the meeting for things that were on the agenda. For participation on Zoom, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Please only use the Zoom chat for technical issues such as room audio, or you can't raise your hand or things of that nature. Please do not comment or question in the chat as it's distracting for all. The intent of this new policy is not to stifle community input, but rather to allow the Select Board to be more efficient and effective in our work. People are welcome to email the members of the Select Board at any time with feedback or questions. Our email addresses are on the town's website and on the notice on the assigning table. So, do we have any public that wishes to speak on something that is not on the agenda? Yes, sir. You want to, well, I guess you don't have to come up to the table anymore.
Just state your name.
We get to see you better.
Yes.
State your name for the record.
My name is Stephen Help, H-A-U-P-T. So I'm here tonight to talk about the 4 no parking signs that were placed on the west side of the old Pump Road in mid-September. I know several emails were sent back and forth between the Select Board and the current 3 residents where the signs were placed. I'm omitting the first house because the house is actually for sale. And we found out in the emails that we were not following open meeting laws. So I'm here tonight to speak to all the board members.
Why were we following?
I have a question to start with. Was there a traffic study done which dictated the Select Board to put up these signs?
We're going to talk about updates to where we are with Palmer and Old Pump during updates. Which is different, but speed studies are to deal with speed, not for no parking signs.
Okay.
No parking signs are at the discretion of the town, and we have had state police recommended on the residential side.
So that was the criteria for putting up the signs.
Yes.
So, just in the Select Board meeting on June 16th in 2022, Adam indicated at this meeting that if signs were put up, we could not enforce them. No towing company would get involved, especially one in Bolton, except for possibly one in Bolton. So the signs were worthless, his words. At that same meeting, Catherine suggested at that meeting the residents could put cones up in front of their property to keep cars off the west side of Old Pump. We, the residents, have not had to use this deterrent because no one, creamy customers, have parked on the west side. There have been times when a visitor at our homes or our own cars may be parked on the west side. Usually it's because we're using our driveway for more than just parking. We do have pictures, I don't have those tonight, but we have pictures showing busy times, extremely busy times when no cars have ever parked on the west side, both pre and post signs. At the September 19th meeting, Catherine did say the VSP recommended putting up signs on the residential side to keep the lane open for safety. I visited the Williston Barracks on September 23rd around noon, and I spoke to the station commander, Lieutenant Corey Loza. I told him about the signs and that the Select Board had been given direction or suggestion to put them up. And he said, I quote, "There was no such recommendation come from the VSP. This was not the job of the VSP. And if the select board was using the VSP as a reason, then we could take the signs down." He also asked for the name of the officer so that he could let them know that this is not a VSP job. I will let you follow up with that officer. So if the select board has indicated the VSP is the reason, and Adam said they wouldn't be enforceable, I-
Adam was our old town highway foreman.
Oh, okay.
But.
Yeah.
I would say based on this information, I respectfully ask the select board to have the town crew come by within a week and remove these signs. I would also ask the select board that if they're going to impact our yards in the future, that we be part of the discussion, as we're the ones living with the traffic daily. I also believe the select board owes their families an apology for placing these signs on our yard without our input. We have been living with the impact and have firsthand knowledge of what's going on. Please keep us in the loop and help us with a solution going forward.
Thank you for your comments. In 2022, the cones, there was no, public safety was not the issue, not as much of an issue as it was in 2023 when the state police had come out to help with open a lane when rescue squads needed to get through. Because there were cars on both sides of the road at that time. That's when this officer, that I don't know the name or anything, that was just what we've been told.
So based on the fact that the VSP has told us these signs are enforceable, are not part of the VSP.
We can enforce them now. I mean, it's up to the town. The VSP has nothing to do with enforcing.
I would respectfully ask to see those signs taken down within a week.
Thank you for your
Yeah.
comments.
Okay, if they aren't, I would say I would happily drop them off over here at the town office next Friday. Thank you.
All right, Beth, you must again. Nice to see your smiling faces. I'm sure you're tired of seeing us. 87 Old Pump Road. I just have a few follow-up questions. I would like
Your
to
last name again, please?
Demas, D-E-M-A-S, 87 Old Pump Road. So I'm kind of new to this. I'm not aware that any of the neighbors have seen any of the warnings or the proposed ordinance for no parking on the west side of Old Pump Road. I wonder if the select board could provide us with the dates of the warnings, the proposed ordinance and the final ordinance, because we haven't seen.
It's not an ordinance, it's a policy. Ordinance is it requires a special process, yes. But we can do a policy, we check with our attorney, and you can just do it as a policy. You don't need an ordinance.
Well, the statute in the town charter states differently. The statute requires that there be an ordinance, that there be 2 warned meetings, and that there be an open meeting.
Well, we'll check with our attorney again, but she said that we could just use it as a policy.
I respectfully disagree with her. I also confirmed it with a friend who is also a town attorney for a different town. He says he always advises his clients to follow the procedure that I outlined. In our opinion, again, those signs are they're unauthorized. We would like them taken down. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Before we move on?
Nobody over here.
Okay. So we'll move on to, a little bit early, Green Mountain Transit and bus route. It's Clayton Carts.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Yeah, you've been making the rounds, I understand.
I have, and I'm sorry it took so long for me to get here, both to talk about our potential service reductions, but also just in general to introduce myself. I'm new to Green Mountain Transit last year, and previously had a career mostly in human services, and was attracted to GMT because whenever I was working in human services, transportation was always a challenge for most of the people I worked with.
Yeah.
And so I thought it would be just a normal extension of my career.
Well, that's an interesting way of thinking about it, yeah, because I understand the Equity Advisory Committee from was really pretty tough. The RPC.
They're, actually, I don't think that they were tough. They were enthusiastic about helping us. And
Yeah, because they were really more impacted.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what I thought that I would do is spend, hopefully no more than 10 minutes, just giving you a little bit of background of how we got to this spot. Because I would much rather, talk with you and answer the questions that you're, interested in instead of just kind of guessing.
Yeah, you obviously heard us talking about it.
Well, I knew that I needed to get out here and to talk with you all, to talk with the folks in Cambridge, and all along the Jefferson, Ville route, because, unfortunately, one of the things that we're looking at is the elimination of the Jeffersonville commuter. But before we get into that, what I wanted to let you know is that GMT finds itself in a similar situation that many, if pretty much most urban transit agencies across the country are experiencing, which is that the pandemic experience had very high inflationary pressures on the cost of providing service. And so what happens is that when you look at the trend lines of our costs going up, it's much faster than the costs of our revenue, or not the cost, but the revenue that we generate. And so we went in to the legislature this past session. We let them know that we had a funding gap in fiscal year 26 that would be happening because we have been filling our gap between revenue and expenses by using COVID relief funds that we received at the beginning of the pandemic. And this allowed us to continue to provide the same level of service, even though our revenue was not enough to cover the costs. So these COVID relief funds will be exhausted in the early part of fiscal year 26. And that means that we have about a $2 million gap in fiscal year 26 between our income and our projected expenses. And so when we talked with the legislature, what we heard from them was a desire for Green Mountain Transit to live within its existing funding and to consider service reductions so that our costs and our revenue would be in alignment. And so as a result of that, this summer, our Board of Commissioners, which is made up of 28 members from our different communities that served, with 14 primary volunteers and 14 alternate volunteers to serve on the board. They asked us in July to come up with a plan to reduce costs by reducing service. And then at the very end of August, our staff presented them with a plan that met some of the criteria that they had established. One of the things that we had done is that we had surveyed our member municipalities who contribute $3.9 million this year towards our service, about what were the things that they wanted to see when it came to our service. What we saw was that they had a strong preference for a weekday service over weekend service, a preference for local service over commuter service, and that they wanted to see where transit was working well and moving a lot of people, not be diminished, that we focus our service reductions where specifically the cost per rider is at its highest, where the economics there are not as favorable. So the plan that we came up with would have 3 phases. The first phase would be this November and December, and potentially included in that phase would be the elimination of the 4 runs of the Jeffersonville commuter. The other changes that would happen in November and December would be with Saturday local service, that would happen, on a lot of the local routes, closer into Burlington. In, February and March, we are looking at making some changes to the, other commuter service, with the Link service and the Milton commuter. One of the things that we found, that's applicable to all of our commuter service is that, it is not, the ridership is not rebounded, since the pandemic. Looking across all of our commuter lines, it's about half of, the riders that it was, pre-pandemic. We think that, the reason for this is because of the changing, work world, where so many folks are, who instead of making long commutes are working remotely. And so this is really, forcing us to, reconsider, the amount of service for the commuter and link routes, because they were based on the ridership pre-pandemic, which just isn't, there anymore. And so in February, March, there would be reductions, to those commuter lines. And then in next June, there would be, reductions in local service, that, could include, up to the elimination of 3 local routes. The number 8, which services the old north end of Burlington, connecting it to the downtown area. The number 10, which connects, the town of Essex and the Essex Experience in a loop around Sand Hill area, to Williston and Walmart. And the number 11, which connects, the downtown transit center in Burlington, to the airport, traveling through, South Burlington neighborhoods. So these, reductions are something that we're not, our desire is to provide as much service as we can and to serve our community as much as possible. So we're not happy with the notion of having to remove service. We understand the need, for us to be, fiscally responsible though. And so that's, why we're going down this path. I'll let you talk a little bit about the reasons why the Jeffersonville commuter is identified. Is that regrettably, when you look at our entire umbrella of, service, it has the highest cost per rider.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it costs us $63 for each passenger that takes it. And
For each single ride.
yes,
So mathematically, so if I ride from here into Burlington, wherever, that cost is $63.
yes, that's our cost for providing the service. And I can tell you that the service had previously been identified beforehand by VTrans as underperforming because of this high cost per rider. And so those economics just mean that we're hard pressed to continue it. One of the things that we tried to do is to see if one of our neighboring providers, Rural Community Transit, that operates as close as Morrisville, would be willing to take over the service. They studied it and concluded that it would also be cost ineffective for them, even using their smaller vehicles. And so unfortunately that did not have a pathway forward for retaining the service right from another provider. Just so that folks know that there's 4 runs on the Jeffersonville commuter, 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. The average total ridership across the day is 25 rides. And so when you think that most of our rides on commuter routes are round trip, that means that the average is 12 to 13 people a day use it for round trip transportation. And that's why the cost is so high per rider, just because of that volume being so low. Let's see, what do I want to, if we were to reduce service, it would likely happen on December 2nd for that route. The Board of Commissioners at GMT will be meeting next on October 15th. There is the possibility that they'll vote on the Jeffersonville change at that meeting. They may consider, in addition to elimination, a reduction, so that there would be a single run in the morning or a single run in the evening. One of the things that we may do is try that for a period of time, because if we don't lose too much ridership, so if we still average about 25 rides a day, but are doing half, then it's now, $32, per ride instead of the 63 and change. And so that's something I know that they'll be considering. I know that they had their last meeting 2 days ago, and I could see that the pain, especially Chapin Kaner. I don't know how long you've been on in your positions, but he's a former president of the GMT board, a Williston alternate now, who is real champions for the Jeffersonville commuter, and you can just see that one of his children is being shot, and he's not happy about it. And so I know that I just want to let you all know that this is not, the position that we want to take, and regret that. So that's kind of how we got here. Moving forward, even though we have heard from the legislature that, they want us to live within our means, we're still going to go back and ask them for more funds next session. One of the things that we're going to continue to advocate for is that there's been 4 studies about public transit financing over the past dozen or so years. The studies all show that Vermont really needs to have a more systemic way of funding public transit, not just for GMT, but for all of the other providers as well. We're going to continue to advocate for that, and hopefully maybe this crisis and the reduction in service will be a catalyst for that change. If that's the case, then certainly with additional funding, we would revisit all of our decisions, and so there is that potential in the future. I also want to let you know that one of the things that we are doing is partnering with VTrans and their program, Go Vermont, and Go Vermont helps set up van pools and car pools. And so there's going to be a VTrans employee that's going to be riding the Jeffersonville commuter over the next month or so on specific days to try to reach out to all of the people that are on the bus to see if any of them situation would warrant a van pool. We do know that there is a van pool already in place along this route that connects to Global Foundries. And so our hope is that we will be able to help people identify alternatives. We have had 5 public meetings. We're going to have 3 more. And what we've heard from folks that are impacted by this is that, they chose their home or apartment along this route because this existed and that they potentially would have to move. And so I apologize to your residents who may be, impacted from that, from losing the service. And so instead of talking at you, love to, hear your questions, do my best to respond. And if I need to go back to the office and talk to the staff and respond, we'll do that later too.
Well, yeah, because where the park and ride is currently for the bus in Jericho, near the Jericho Underhill area, I mean, that's an area slated for significant development over the next few years. And you'd hate to see the bus leave because people are going to be moving there, particularly seniors,
Yes,
to be able to, access the bus.
absolutely.
But, so we, as I said, it's harder to get back once you've lost it.
Yes,
Much harder.
yes,
But so, that's one of the reasons why we would hate to lose it entirely. But the other reason, that public transportation should be better funded, as you said, statewide, is not just because it's a public transportation, but it's a climate issue.
Yes.
And it should be funded not just as transportation, but a way to reduce greenhouse gases,
Yes.
which they're being sued for right now.
Yes.
I mean, that's a real strong argument why there needs to be a broader base of funding.
Absolutely.
But not so much when you've got the bus going back and forth for people on it. Like I would wonder if the bus has more greenhouse gases than those three people in their own cars.
Yeah, but it was, wasn't it 16 people a day?
13?
13 people a day?
Yes.
I mean, 13 cars driving into Burlington and back is
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably as much as a bus.
but hopefully, I mean, because, you know, at least a van would help. I mean, that's why we were thinking something smaller. Because I know some of the people that I've heard from are either students going to UVM
Yes.
or they're working at Fletcher Allen.
Working in the hospital.
Yes.
And so I would guess that if you're going to keep one route, it'd be the earliest one because so you don't lose, because those people would be lost.
Yes.
The other question I have is, do you know, when if they decide to look into saving one trip instead of two trips,
Mhm.
do you know the breakdown of how much travel, where the heavy usage is of those two?
We would probably have the first and last runs just so that would maximize
Capture
the
those
day.
people.
Yeah. Would be that would be the staff recommendation to the board. And of course, they can, have their own decision.
I have a couple questions. When was this route started?
Ooh,
It was a grant, nice big grant.
It was.
Quite a few years ago.
and I think, and so probably in the early 2010s, but let me get back to you because that's,
No, that's okay, it's not, I
okay.
wanted to clarify, if it was started with COVID relief funds
No.
or, so it was started with a grant of some kind.
And-
Mhm.
And then stuff began to tail off and then COVID relief funds gave you
Yes,
a gas. And
yes,
now that's going away and people aren't going back to work, people are on their computers.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, because when it started, they had a grant and they had to prove that it was a viable route for 3 years.
Mhm.
And it met the criteria.
Yeah.
It was doing well then.
Yeah.
And then things got funky.
So my other question is sort of, as you begin to list less so the first phase, but phases 2 and 3,
Mhm.
commuter services, other ones similar to us being stopped, and then reduction in local services, like, is Green Mountain Transit and public transportation, like, is this kind of the death knell? Like, it feels like as soon as you begin to do this, like, oh, well, you can't rely on the bus anymore, so everyone's like, it looks to me like we're heading in the wrong direction,
Yes.
and is this gonna just spiral and get worse, or?
Well, that's certainly my worry. And I think it was also, one of the reasons why we heard from folks, the desire to where we're moving a lot of people to keep that frequency high. Because once you decrease frequency, then you have a large dip in your ridership. And if we had too much of a large dip, some of our federal funds are performance-based, based on the number of riders that we get, and so that we could actually end up in spiraling down because we would lose more funds, which would then require, more service cuts. I think that what we're looking at potentially is two spirals that could be damaging for GMT. One is making sure that we don't because of ridership going down and then decreased ridership, having more cuts. But also, we've already lost a member this year, and the Heinsberg has decided to depart GMT, and so they're going to be effective July 1st of 2025. They will no longer be a member. Fortunately, they were able to. They were in an area that Tri-Valley Transit, another provider, operates. So they're just going to be moving to the Tri-Valley Transit service instead of ours. But we know that some of our other municipalities, especially when we're looking at raising their level of payments while cutting service, are going to be questioning whether they should retain membership in GMT. And so we could potentially have a spiral there and loss of membership, because that would, if we were to lose a core, partner, South Burlington, Winooski, I don't know how we operate transit through those communities
Without them.
without, exactly, yeah. So those are two things that I'm certainly worried about, things that we will talk to the legislature about, because as you said, once you lose it, it's hard to get it back. And I think that if we did start spiraling, then it would be hard to reverse course. And we're going to be making the argument, not only that public transit is, good for the people that it's moving, good for the environment, as you had said, but also it helps address, especially lines like the Jeffersonville commuter, helps address the housing crisis,
Oh, absolutely.
so that people can access housing that's more affordable, without still having to have the funds for car ownership. I can say the good news is that, and I don't want to, it's a delicate dance that we have to play, because they told us to live within our budget, and I can't, seem like I'm just going to come back to them and ask for more. But at the same time, when we talked to them this past session, we just said, hey, we're going to have, up to $3 million worth of service cuts. They were like, okay, that sounds horrible, but still we're within your budget. Now, we have a plan, and there's specific routes. And so, for example, we've had 4 legislators contact us about the Jeffersonville commuter specifically, saying that I'm really worried about losing the Jeffersonville commuter. And so my hope is that concern then leads to
Conversation.
yeah.
Yeah, because realistically, I mean, but from, it is a small state. It does have financial issues of its own. But if you actually provide more service and it's subsidized by the state, you actually get better ridership.
Yes.
You can, it
Like the other route to go would be like to say, instead of doing no trips, we're gonna now do 5 trips in the morning, 5, like you have trips all day long.
Mhm.
So that you don't have to get up at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Again, if you don't leave for work till 9, now you have this,
Yes.
and that's sort of like,
yeah, and then you have, seniors that say, I'd like to go in for the afternoon.
Right.
People could really move away from single occupancy vehicles and things like that.
Absolutely. And what we find is that so many of our riders don't work standard 9 to 5 office jobs. And so that's the thing that really worries me. One, we're going to be eliminating some Saturday service, some Saturday evening service. We know that it has lower ridership numbers, but those are the dishwashers, the the folks that are helping the evening economy, and they potentially are going to be losing their ability to get to work. And so that's where from our perspective, we really don't want to see any of this happen, because we think that we see when I used to be in the military. We talked about things that were force multipliers, that like, hey, you do this and it has positive influences in multiple areas. We see public transit as a force multiplier for our whole community. It does so many good things. One of the things that we're also going to try to do differently this session is that traditionally, the transportation committees, are the ones that have public transit within their, realm of responsibility. And this makes perfect sense when you think about the Federal Transportation Administration pays for the bulk of our service. They even are, because they provide at the lowest for our operating at 50% of the costs. Some of our routes are even higher depending on the program that they're under. And so I'm sorry, I kind of lost track of where I was going.
Federal funding.
So with the federal, I've done so many of these. But hopefully it will come back. And I do want to say that I have to be also thankful to V-Trans in the legislature. Because when you look at the per capita contributions towards public transit, Vermont has some of the highest, in the country already. And so, so I think that we need to, also recognize that our state leadership has seen the value of public transit. We just need to, hopefully have them see it a bit more. Oh, now I remember where I was going with this. And is that although the transportation committees are, and the FTA is how the funding flows through, but the impact on the riders, the transportation committee is not focused on people, And so one of the things that we want to make sure is that the healthcare and the human services committees, know, because
It impacts.
it's going to impact the people they're trying to serve. And we're hopeful, the last job I had with the state of Vermont was in the Department of Disabilities, Aging and Independent Living. They have a $500 million a year budget. We have we just need
Fraction, right.
exactly. Can your spare change, can you send it our way? Because it would save us.
Yeah, that's certainly some of the population that you serve, and just a good chunk of it.
Exactly. So
Someone said to me when I was talking, so I forget, what Jilly, who I was talking to, but somebody said, wait, if they stop, if Green Mountain rent over here, does that affect SSTA?
And so potentially it affects them because SSTA does our complimentary ADA service. And so because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, if anybody lives within 3/4 of a mile of a local bus service, it doesn't apply to commuter service for whatever reason. But within local service, then they can get door-to-door transit through SSTA if they have a disability that prevents them from riding the bus. So one of the things that I'm worried about, especially if we were to eliminate the number 10 in the town of Essex, is that there would be a lot of folks who are using ADA service from SSTA that now would lose that.
Which is huge.
There are other programs, specifically Vermont's older persons and persons with disabilities transportation program. But that's already financially strapped. Having them have to provide service.
Up the SST loss.
Exactly. And actually SSTA provides both services. They just, bill a, different program depending on who they're picking up. But yeah, there definitely could be cascading impacts to SSTA.
My only comment was just echoing Catherine's first comment, which was if the state is serious about pushing, if they're serious about their housing goals, if they're serious about the housing happening in village centers.
Yeah.
They need to figure this out. So I would really push on that. And yes, on the environmental impacts, yes, on the people impact, but they can't not fund these types of routes and say you need to develop here in these areas. They just can't.
Because we can put affordable housing there, but no one can live there because they can't afford their house and a car, and they can't afford 2 cars for a couple.
And the best way to make it affordable is to make them as small as we can and as tight as we can, with no driveways and no garages, so they don't have room for a car. So
As long as there's a public parking lot within one quarter mile or something like that.
right, and
Something that would be helpful for us is that we have to provide the legislature with an interim report on our progress towards sustainability on November 15th, and a final report on February 1st. Some of the other municipalities have, put their concerns in writing to us, and we'll put that in the package to the legislature. And so, like the comment from earlier that we have development that's going, up along this route. If you all were willing to put that in a letter and send it to us, I would
Send it directly to you.
send it directly to me. Then I would love to include that in our package.
Right now we get homework.
Right.
That's what ChatGPT is for.
No, that's a good idea. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that.
So what would you, if we were to do that, what would you want that from us by?
I think as long as we got it by, the board hopefully will approve it on their November 12th meeting.
Okay, no, that's one.
And we will send them that package. We'll put that 6 days back. So November 6th, if we had it by November 6th, that'd be great.
Okay, at least. Okay. Yeah, that sounds like, we need to do something. I mean, because there's all these reasons why we don't want to use the.
And I forgot to mention in my overview, we do know that you make a $16,000 contribution for the service.
That was gonna be my other comment, but I.
I appreciate that, but I do want to make sure that you know that if we do have to reduce the service, then we would prorate what you provided us for this year and, return the funds to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just paid one payment, one of the payments that we made. Yeah, I just signed the warrants today.
Thank you for that.
Like that, hey, this is good timing here. Something to say. Well, we really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, we keep coming out and just sort of
This was a
facing the
very
answer.
good.
Very nice presentation.
I mean, also, we have a couple of people who have written to us and said like, hey, you need to deal with this.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like, having you here, I can kind of compose in my head how to communicate the situation.
Thank you so much.
And to be watching the V-Trans, like, there's gonna be a V-Trans person riding the bus, like, look for them and.
Yes. His
Right.
name's Dan Carrier, and he's a Eagle Scout and a all-around good human.
Great.
Mm.
That's great.
How do you spell Courier?
Currier.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I hope that the rest of your meeting goes well, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Catherine, just a heads up, I forgot to tell you in the beginning, the warrants, they aren't down here because Brian has not signed off on them as of yet. And that's why they're not down here, so they'll have to put them on to the next one.
Right, but like, like 4:45.
Yeah,
Got an email,
yep, that's when they got done.
and I don't know whether, how it would play out, but, there's some tweaks I'd like to see,
There is?
the way the current batch was, because, Amy periodically would put like first payment of, for
First of three or
first
whatever.
of three or whatever. when it
I
came
did.
out.
Yeah, now it's.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I knew it was one of you guys that
Mhm.
did that, and, and some of them, some weird ones you'd also put this.
Yep. Final or, yep,
Yep.
Yep.
But, these were just numbers.
okay, yep,
I mean, it'll be like, Fremont, GMT and the number.
right,
But it's good to know whether it's first of three or it's two.
Yep.
Because some look like they were one, some look like they were two, some look like they were, So, because that way, when somebody else becomes chair, then they would understand what those were, rather than I could recognize what I would, having done it for so long. But
I guarantee the next year I'll be looking real close at that stuff.
They're gonna wind up now. So you're aware of that.
And then I just have one question for the person that is on Zoom, the 802-899-0208. Can you just state your name, please, for the recording secretary?
Sure, this is Dan Smith. I'm also logged into the Zoom meeting. What
okay,
happened
Dan.
was my computer updated its firmware just before the meeting, which wiped out my camera and my microphone, so.
All
I had
right,
to come in by dialing.
you're next, so that's good.
That was my suspicion.
It'll give me something to work on tomorrow.
But anyway,
Come to that then.
Yep.
Welcome, because, you asked to be an alternate to the CCCUD, depending on whether it happens or not. It'd
Yeah,
be nice if they got the B grant so that it does happen.
So could you give us just like a quick little overview of yourself and why you're interested, and then we can make our tough decision.
Sure. Once again, my name is Dan Smith. My career has been IT since probably been mid-80s. I semi-retired, shut down my own company in, I think it was 2012. From 2015 to 2021, I was the IT consultant for the Legislative Joint Fiscal Office. And in 2021, I fully retired. My IT background covered a wealth of subjects, a little light on, broadband and communications. It was mostly system development for government systems and program management, things like that. But my personal interest in the CCCUD is we live on Varney Road, which is a beautiful place to live, but it's got nothing in terms of cable. We have limited internet access, which we get through DSL, which is adequate, but not really very supportive of true broadband. I've been watching the progress of Fidium and some of the other fiber optic lines going around Jericho and this area, and kind of stumbled on the CCCUD and felt, okay, this is something I'm interested in. This is something I'd like to support if it means getting better broadband for, Chittenden County and Jericho itself.
Yeah, that's excellent, because I'm sure you've been paying attention, because looks like phase one might, in process. But Jericho and Underhill are phase two, and we'd certainly like to see something happen here, because you're not the only one that has limited surface, and that's the problem, and that's what all this was supposed to solve with the communications districts, was those people out at the edges that nobody wants to touch because there's space in between.
Right. We're in kind of a tough zone.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that we're in a tough zone where if we were very limited population, people would be beating a path to our door to get us connected. And if we were a high density population like Burlington, we'd already be connected. But Jericho is kind of in that middle of the road place where we have some connectivity, but not full connectivity. And I think we really just need to get pushing to get everybody hooked up.
Yeah, and future proof, you need to go fiber, period, and Comcast cable, is copper, and it's not, it can download well, but it can't upload particularly well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I would make a motion to appoint Dan Smith as the alternate Jericho representative to the CCCUD.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
serving on
Dan.
that.
You have a great background for
You're
it. that's
highly
for sure.
qualified for sure.
And I sympathize.
All right.
I was on Barber
Thank you very much.
I was on Barber Farm Road, and only I was there a year before we had anything other than DSL, and that's tough. So hang in there.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Well, it looks like you can, pretty soon call, Dave Barrington, because we're going to.
I did. I already sent him a text.
He just joined and then dropped.
Good. Anyway, we're now going to review and consider approval of the road policy.
So Paul, is the yellow highlighted stuff?
Yes, that's the one that was.
Is that the language of the problem? Is that her answer?
That was the answer to the problem that we had from the last one. She didn't like the way that it was put on there, worded, yeah. And so she kind of revamped it a little bit and was happy with the last
Yeah.
paragraph.
What is that? What's the language of 27 BSA and 24 BSA? Like,
Continue.
okay.
27 BSA 545 is A and B replies to it. And number A is deed restrictions, covenants, and similar binding agreements added after March 1st, 2021 that prohibit or have the effect of prohibiting land development allowed under 24 VSA 442 1E and 2A shall not be valid. I will tell you what those are too.
Okay.
And B is deed restrictions or covenants added after July 1, 2023 shall not be valid if they require a minimum dwellings unit size on the property or more than one parking space per dwelling until the property is located. If the property is located in an area served by municipal sewer and water infrastructure as defined in 24 VSA 4303. And that allows residential uses or more than 1.5 parking spaces for duplexes and multi-unit dwellings in areas not served by sewer and water in areas that are located more than 1/4 mile away from public parking, rounded up to the nearest whole number when calculating the total number of spaces. So then 44, 1, 2, E, 1E and 2A. 1E is except for flood hazard and fluvio erosion area bylaws adopted pursuant to section 4424 of this title. No bylaws shall have the effect of excluding as a permitted use one accessory dwelling unit that is located within or pertinent to a single family dwelling on an owner occupied lot. A bylaw shall require a single family dwelling with an accessory dwelling unit to be subject to the same review, dimensions, or other controls as required for a single family dwelling without an accessory dwelling unit. The criteria for conversion of an existing detached non-residential building to habitable space for accessory dwelling unit shall not be more restrictive than the criteria used for a single family dwelling without an accessory dwelling unit. And then 2A is existing small lots. Any lot that is legally subdivided is in individual and separate and non-affiliated ownership from surrounding properties and is in existence on the date of enactment of any bylaw, including an interim bylaw, may be developed for the purpose permitted in the district in which it is located, even though the small lot no longer conforms to minimum size lot requirements of the new bylaw or interim bylaw. And A is a municipality may prohibit development of a lot not served by and able to connect to municipal sewer and water service if either of the following applies. 1, the lot is less than 1/8 acre in area, or 2, the lot has a width or depth dimension of less than 40 feet. I mean, in other words, they don't want those shotgun homes essentially. But that's exactly what those are.
Okay, but that's not the language we were looking for. We're looking for language that says that basically, if you're in, I'm making up a zoning name, but if you're in rural residential, your covenant has to allow anything that's allowed in rural residential. That's really specific around like ADUs and.
ADUs
This is just saying.
Yeah.
You need to follow the rules of the state law, but we're not looking to follow the rules
Well,
of the
I
state
guess
law.
she's concerned that we could be sued if, you're not following the.
Right, because there's some sort of stipulation with the HOA,
Right.
the way I probably won't say it right, but it's some stipulation where you can't put an HOA requirement on something. Because they're their own separate, it's owned by them.
Yeah.
So that's what
But
her.
they can do that, but we're saying we're not gonna, that's great. If you wanna not allow black people to live there, great, but we're not gonna take your road over.
Well, basically, we've said we're not taking the road over if they, exclude a permitted, ADU.
But this is just saying, we won't take a road over if your property violates state law, but your property already, we're saying nothing. Because they can't violate those laws anyways, so.
So would you like to change it
I
in?
think we wanted to say, this feels like not the same thing we're trying to achieve. I think we're trying to achieve that if you want to take over your road in any given district that is zoned a certain way, your HOA has to allow everything that's allowed by anybody else in that zone.
And I think there's rules against what we can do with HOAs is the problem.
No, we're not saying.
We're not dictating.
we're not saying you
We're not
can't-
saying you can't do the HOA. what we're trying to get is.
That's true.
We're
That's
trying
right.
to say,
Yeah.
we're trying to give somebody who's looking to get their, I guess maybe a better way to look at it, is not so much look at what we're gonna restrict,
Right,
but look at what's gonna, we can, it's up to us. We don't
Right.
have to take over any road, but
that's right, we
we
don't
do
have,
need to be fair. And so I think what Peter's saying is, if you want us to take over your road, it needs to match zoning requirements. We're not saying your HOA can't do this or it can't do that. We're saying the types of roads that we're gonna take over are going to fit with our zoning guidelines. And so I don't know if that changes her mind any, but I feel like there must be something that she doesn't like about what we're saying, and maybe she needs, like, maybe we just need.
Like rephrase it
for
a
her-
little bit
like, for her
better.
to hear me say just that
Mhm,
thing,
mhm,
maybe have her listen to that recording, and then like, is there something wrong with that?
mhm,
And maybe we're
mhm.
just not getting it.
mhm.
because,
Yeah,
because all roads are private to start with, so we don't have to take over any road.
Right.
And so if you want a road taken over, we want it to meet the criteria that the current zoning allows.
Right, all roads are private, and you can put anything you want in your HOA, because it's your property and it's your road, and do whatever you want, as long as it's legal
The
and
state,
follows
the
these
state
things
may have
here.
a couple
Right,
laws.
the state has some thoughts, but
Mhm,
besides that, we
mhm,
don't care.
mhm.
Right,
If you want us to take it over, we require that your HOA that your HOA be compliant with all the zoning regulations of the zone that you're in.
right, because this didn't
And
even.
if it's not, if you don't want to do that, great, no problem, but we're not taking over your road. So we're not trying to tell you what can be in your HOA. We're telling you we're saying that you're in charge of your own road unless you meet this requirement from us.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Which is kind of saying the same thing, like, right, like your HOA can't have these restrictions if you want a road break.
Mhm,
Right,
mhm,
right,
mhm.
but we're not saying within your HOA, put anything you want there, as long as it stays okay, but
Mhm.
don't, but we're not taking your road over.
We're not gonna.
Right,
we're not gonna-
But,
Right,
you know,
right.
obviously, if there's an empty lot there and the zoning says you can put a triplex on that because of the zoning district. But the HOA says, no, I mean,
That's what we're, that's
They-
kind of.
We're trying to say, okay, if you're gonna do that, fine, but we're not taking over your road.
Exactly.
Right.
They also didn't even mention solar panel.
Yeah, right, So does that make sense, Paula?
Yep,
That-
yep,
Okay.
and, yep, definitely. I've got that down.
But my guess is she's gonna come back with there's something about it that.
Do you think there's something wrong with it?
There must be, because we've tried like 3 or 4 times to say.
Yeah,
she
we've
keeps
tried a
she
kinda
keeps
different-
Like trying to work it out.
Yeah.
There must be a message.
It's a little,
I think what I want is for her to either say, you can't do that,
mm,
or tell us how to make it, but don't give us something, I don't want her to give us something that is not, the language is not what we're trying to do.
Yep.
Don't give us an alternative, say you can't do that,
mhm,
or here's how you can do it.
This
Okay.
gives the legal reasoning why we can do this, but it's not enough.
Right, that's not, yeah,
Anyway, I figured you wanted to know what they were.
yeah, that's perfect.
Because otherwise we could,
I know SJ is on hopefully to talk about the town meeting reimagined. I have not seen Dave Barrington yet.
He
so-
did join, I allowed him, and then he
Oh,
was gone.
okay.
I was wondering,
you
like,
could,
debrief of town meeting reimagining.
Yeah, I
stuff,
used
which
to
hasn't
know-
happened yet.
no, I used the wrong word when I said.
Yeah,
Not debrief, but
she
like prep
did.
for.
Yeah, prep.
Okay.
Prep for,
I was thinking about town meeting reimagined because I have to speak on.
It should just be brief.
It's like
Yeah, it
the-
should be
it's
just
like the-
brief.
it's like the opposite when we sign a liquor license after the fact, debriefing before the meeting happens.
Yes.
Sorry.
That went really well.
People were really happy with us.
I kept, because I'm trying to, because I'm back and forth with the folks and Jen and stuff about what, do I need this, do I need that? I said, I don't use slides, come on. I just talk. But, and so when they, because from what we had talked about last time, we wanted to make sure that they got another actual agenda item so that people who may have been at tonight's meeting, actually
New, yeah.
know that this is happening and this is what's going to happen and it's very exciting. But I was thinking debriefing and then, if it wasn't Paul, it was my, oh yeah, let's talk about that. Anyway, does, SJ have anything to say while we're waiting for, Dave Barrington?
I am here. I hate to overstep my chair. But I can certainly tell you that at the farmer's market this afternoon, I talked to quite a few people who had heard about it, a few people who were planning to attend, some who knew that they couldn't attend, but were really excited that they were going to have the option to watch the meeting back later.
Okay,
And
good.
then hopefully be able to send an email to you or, put their thoughts together and somehow get that information to you all after the fact. So that was, it was maybe 5 or 6 people and then a bunch of people from other towns, but I thought that that was really positive. And the other thing, again, this is Jennifer has done a really great job of reminding us that this is the first time this has ever been done. And, we're trying to thread the needle of, making sure that we retain a lot of the things that we love about Old Town Meeting. And that we reimagine something new that really honors that tradition, and allows more participation for more people in different ways. And so we've worked really hard and we're really excited about what we're going to do on Saturday, and know that probably it's going to be tweaked a couple of times over the years before we kind of get it right. But hopefully this is also really beneficial for you 3, and you too, Paula. But hopefully, you walk away from that meeting and from the next couple of weeks feeling like you've got a sense of what the town and what the neighbors are really thinking about and prioritizing, and that you can take that into your budget planning sessions.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. This is just some feedback I got from my husband. He was reading the Mount Mansfield Village's newsletter for the month. And Beth had put something in there about the meeting Reimagined coming up with what it's going to be. And he said, reading that, it didn't make me excited. He said, it just sounded like another informational meeting that you do before sending the budget off to the printer. And I went, so there's just something within the language that was put in the Mount Mansfield Village's newsletter that made me go, yeah, it doesn't sound any different than, and I explained, he says, yeah, I know, you talk to me about it all the time. But reading this, it doesn't sound like it's that exciting.
That's good. That's-
Yeah,
That's good feedback. Unfortunately, it's 2 days away, so we can't fix that, but that's
No,
certainly
he's
good
talking
feedback
about
for
the one in
next year.
January. He was talking
The
about
one in January, yeah,
January one?
and
Yes.
honestly, the one in January is gonna feel like the same old meeting, because
Right.
that's what it is.
No,
It
no,
is
no,
exactly
no,
the
he
same.
means the same old boring meetings that nobody would
The
attend.
meeting in here, we're like, oh, we're gonna discuss highways tonight, so what do you wanna do about highways? And no one comes and they're boring.
Well, the
Mm,
informational meetings that we do before we have to send it to the printer, when we finally finalize
When
it.
we're going to the budget and we all go through and we read all the lines
Yeah.
and like
And
literally
he said-
nobody's
he
watching.
said-
and-
He said, that's just another old boring information meeting
Yeah.
everybody comes to.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe you each need
January's
to
very-
develop a
January's
talent that you can
big power.
showcase.
so I have no idea, I didn't read it that way because, it's in my head what it is, but but in case people didn't know. But anyway, it's time for, I guess, for David to speak about
David,
on Saturday, but, remind people what we're going to do. Talk about it and stuff like that.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
So that's a great introduction. What we're trying to do is boring as hell.
No.
So I think everybody on the select board's got a pretty good idea of what's going on here. I can go over the basic scheme for the meeting, or it depends. Do other citizens who are also there?
we don't have much of an
No,
audience, so I
no.
think an overview from you would be great for the minutes.
Right, it's great for the minutes, plus it's also, people actually watch on, LMC TV, which means they're not they can't
Right, or on
participate.
YouTube or whatever.
Right, on YouTube, so they may be watching, we just don't know.
Right,
And
okay.
Going over what Saturday is we're trying to give you what we did was trying to give you another time to actually publicize this.
Yeah, I think, David, you could talk a little bit from a kind of promotional angle of the whole thing, because I think we know, the only question that I have, select board specific, is there anything that you're gonna want from us?
Ooh, that's a great question.
In terms of, like, my plan is to show up and be watching and taking notes and listening, but do you want anything from any of us as a part of the run of show?
I gotta speak for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, which you have already made entirely clear, but can't be repeated enough is that you guys are very receptive to what the citizens will have to contribute, and that it will help you immensely in building the budget.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
The Saturday meeting is the first chance to tell us what you want us to do, and then the second meeting in January is your chance to make amendments and
To what we did.
to what we did.
Yeah, but, well, of course, with the caveat that the amendments are advisory, not forcing anybody into doing anything.
Right.
I think that what's novel about the new meeting, which is this kickoff meeting, is that it's early enough so that there's real opportunity to help form the priorities for the budget. And that's really the key to our actually adding a second meeting to this, to the annual cycle. Sure, there are select board meetings where people can come and gather and get an idea of what's going on, but the way we envision this meeting is the select board comes, the task force comes, and we give people a basic idea of what's going on, and then we sit everybody down at tables and they say, okay, what's on your mind? So the basic layout of the meeting is to have an introductory time, which involves basically talking about the transition from the old town meeting to the new town meeting and what we're adding to it that is designed to get greater involvement and make it a more inclusive meeting across the whole town. And a key factor is that unlike town meeting, it'll be a hybrid meeting there'll be both regular participation in the MMU library and online access, and that direct participation in these table sessions where people contribute their ideas, what they want for priorities for the budget and what's on their mind, it doesn't matter whether you're there in person or you're online, there will be small groups involved in that process of building advice to you folks as members of the select board, either conduit that happen. So we will start off with a short introduction, which I'm involved in, which we're going to talk about, where we're coming from and what we're envisioning. And then we're going to take some time to ask you folks to talk about what it is you're actually hoping for from the meeting. And we'll also, there's an additional piece to this that has to do with the complications relating to the two activities that characterize town meeting. There's voting on the budget, but there's also voting on these public questions, which most citizens know as petitions. And I think all of you have been involved in the long series of emails where we've straightened out what the different kinds of petitions are, public questions, who's actually authoring them, what kinds of requirements are for submitting them, and when they're due. All of that feeds into the timing of the second meeting. And so we'll take a little time to outline that complexity so that there'll be more of a general idea from the public of what, because the two basic sources are things coming from the select board and things coming from the citizens. And then we'll move into a session which will be moderated by Jennifer Nauer, who's one of the members of our task force, who's an experienced person in running meetings of this sort, and Jennifer will introduce that part of the meeting and what we hope to accomplish and how it's going to work, and then we'll run the actual sessions on the tables and get things going there. There will be refreshments. We have a bake sale available and some liquid refreshments, probably cider, just to make for more of a feeling of that being a happening. And the members of the task force will be there in force to be part of the process. I think that's my basic idea of what it is we're up to and what we're hoping to get out of this. And just to summarize what we're after a set of priorities and issues coming from the citizens to the select board via these small table discussions that will feed into your forming the budget that we'll see as a draft budget in preparation for the second meeting in January, when once again, we can have some influence on what the final budget is that of course will be made available only as something to vote on by Australian ballot on town meeting day. SJ's here and she may want to make some additions to what I've said. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Well, I think there's a lot of other entities, from VLCT to other municipalities that are facing the same thing. They're really watching to see how this plays out so that they can, learn from us.
Yeah, we've actually heard that from a couple of places that people are eager to know how things go in Jericho. And one of the things that we've said as a task force is, this is year one. We've never done this before. This meeting is going to be a learning meeting for the task force. It isn't necessarily, the dream kickoff meeting that everybody is hoping for, but it's going to be a first meeting and we'll learn a lot from it. And we'll have key ways to get people's input. We'll get feedback from the meeting. And I should say that we will be recording the meeting so that the citizens will be able to watch what's going on in the meeting and make contributions after the meeting's over to the process of developing the budget.
So to sum up, the meeting is Saturday at 10 a.m., correct?
So yeah, we're 10 a.m. to noon at the MMU library.
There will be food.
There will be food.
And if someone is watching on MMC TV right now, the recording of this meeting, if you're watching a select board meeting after hours, you should absolutely be at this meeting on Saturday because you are super involved in town government, whether you know it or not. So if you're watching a video right now on YouTube, thank you for watching, and I want to see you Saturday at 10 a.m.
And then there's things
Or virtually, right?
Or virtually, yeah.
Either way,
See you
either
online,
way.
absolutely.
And
Yep, for sure.
the link for the meeting is up. It's already posted on the Jericho Town Meeting Reimagined page under the Join in Jericho page.
The only thing I would add is kids are welcome. This is family is part of Jericho, and kids are welcome to attend. We'll have coloring, and the expectation is that there will be kids there. So don't feel like you need to keep them at home or find a sitter in order to come and participate.
That's a good point. I'm
That's great.
bringing mine.
As I understand it, there will be, some of the committees will be there to, you can talk to, the standing committees afterwards and, find out what they're doing or what their interests and priorities are as well.
Yeah, the chairs of all the committees are invited, and hopefully they will be there to help us out. That'd be great.
And if you're on Zoom, am I correct that if you're on Zoom and you want baked goods, Eric will drive baked goods to your house
Absolutely.
during the meeting? Sure. And we want full commitment from all
That's
people.
that is what I heard. Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you,
Thank you.
SJ.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Oh, you guys. Okay, great.
Thank you.
See you on Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Bye-bye.
All your work getting us here.
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
I think it's really great that they are thinking like, yeah, this is the first time, like, I can go perfect. We're having
I think
no
that-
problems.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it wasn't.
Aaron,
Aaron.
we said something wrong.
It's mad at us.
No, can I just make a brief suggestion? At the beginning of this discussion, you said that debrief was kind of a weird way to change this. So since this is the title we use on the recording, I thought, why don't we change the recording title to the town of meeting Reimagined kickoff meeting part 1, October 5th at MMU.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
thinking
you.
of that.
I thought she was coming on to say, we're not talking.
We're not gonna be there. No one told us.
That's right.
It is on our calendar, so we know. Thank you.
Okay.
Everybody's so worried about, getting our hands,
Right.
getting our hands slapped for something else. All right, next is discussion of potential approval of advertising for public works positions.
So I'm the one that asked to have this on. We talked about this during last year's budget season. We added a line in our budget to address the issue of capacity. We've talked about it a few times since then, since that budget was approved, and with a lot of talk of how do we add capacity, and the public works type of person is how I want to phrase it. I think we're all in agreement that that is the right skill set to at least start looking for. And so my hope was that we could at least agree to start that advertising for that position, with the understanding that, we're going to call it a public works position. We have a bunch of ideas like right now of some of the needs that person would start doing. And so we can interview with looking for some of those skill sets. And those things are help us figure out how we fund wastewater, right? We'll have we'll have that final facility very soon. Help us figure out, is that really feasible? We have the feasibility study. Now we need the feasibility of, can we afford it?
The money.
And how do we go about getting it, and what makes sense, and what would you change? And then, so that's a big one. And then, okay, while you're working on that, what else? What else infrastructure wise can we do? And I think
Water.
yeah, whatever those things are, and what things should we do to start facilitating those things, right? Like, I don't know what I don't know, and I think that's where a lot of us are at. So my hope is that we could just start kind of advertising for it now, and we kind of keep those in mind as we start interviewing them. I know onboarding people, you don't speed up at first. We're going through a phase right now where our customers like, please add 10 people. And we're like,
Right.
You think adding 10 people is
Just
going to
that?
speed us up
Right,
right now?
right.
Like, it's not,
Yeah.
but
We gotta stop and train all of them.
and so I know Paula and the staff are onboarding a new planner right now. But I think it'll still be okay. And I think, I have full expectation that the new planner is going to come up to speed quickly and not utilize a lot of staff time and bring them up to speed. So I guess I'm kind of just making a proposal that we move forward with the position, with the understanding that we're going to get to review the candidates.
100%.
Oh, yeah. We have to figure out actual salary for how many hours.
Yeah, oh, sorry, thank you. And I know that Paula and Linda were reaching out to VLCT to get some example job descriptions from other towns, and we may not have that yet. And I just propose that we let Paula and Linda, once they get it, use that language, and I don't feel the need to.
It's some of the salaries you can find in the VLCT.
Compensation, but.
Yeah.
Because they have all that.
I guess I assumed it was full-ish time.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you, because we talked about the 50K was because it's gonna take a half year to get it together.
Right.
So that would be full time. I think
But so you're gonna pay him $100,000 next year?
No, 50K is the budget,
Yeah.
which it understands
For the
that
whole
he's
year.
gonna come in at something, and we're gonna have to pay for their benefits and
Right,
social security.
Yeah, so we don't really,
And 50s, I think my impression is just like a round number that's announced to start for half a year.
Right.
Get the conversation started. That doesn't mean like, 100 next year. It means like, maybe, I don't know what it is. There's also salary benefits and other workers' comp and stuff you have to pay as well. But
Right.
just
Yeah, I was thinking around
But
the,
a full-time
somewhere
employee.
between like, I don't know, around the planner and whatever the,
Right.
you know, the planner and Chris, and thinking about some of the.
Whatever VLCT says is appropriate, you know,
Yeah.
what you
Yeah, because,
want to be
whether
competitive and.
you gotta be competitive, and you know, whether, somebody only wants a half, somebody's really skilled, but it's of course quasi-retirement, and only wants to do half-time, but
No,
it's
that's a
really
good
good.
point, yeah, right, if someone's like, hey, I only want 32 hours, you know, maybe we take that into consideration when we're
Yeah.
reviewing candidates.
Yeah, exactly.
I think 32 hours would be perfect, but
Right.
I don't know.
So that's all pretty loosey-goosey, Paul. How do you, in terms of like directive from us,
Mhm.
kind of a non-directive directive, do you feel like
Mhm.
that's enough and you can?
Yep.
Because I think the big thing that I hear from Eric and that I'm feeling as well, is like, I want to get going on this and get this
We,
out, get it out and
We need it.
get it hired and figured out and
Right.
moving forward.
We want the people that focus on our meetings a lot and on the town stuff to start saying, look how much they're getting done,
Right.
instead of, why aren't they getting more done?
Right.
And that doesn't feel great,
Yeah.
you know, for
Even
us,
though
or
we're-
for the staff to hear that.
no, it's not, and people are really working hard.
Yeah.
Sort of related to that is stormwater, 3-acre stormwater. Turns out, a lot of towns rural towns are having that issue, and, Bard from Richmond brought it up at the RPC meetings. And,
Is this about public works, guy?
yeah,
Okay,
Public Works
okay,
could do,
okay.
yeah, Public Works can do, you know, because that's what Paul is hoping.
To get some support on.
Get some support on.
No.
But, they're going to try to have a presentation on, 3-acre stormwater issues at the Planning Advisory Committee, for the RPC.
Hmm.
And that's, we currently do not have a representative there. Usually it's the town planner. And so I thought I'd just have that on your radar as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just spoke with Brendan today. That was one of my meetings, was about the 3-acre stormwater. Because the question I had for him was, if the Black Walnut Lane, because they have a 3-acre stormwater, the town will have to be partnership to that. They can't just take it and keep it themselves. We have to be a part of that. So we're gonna have to pay we'll have to split it, figure out the percentage
For what?
for their
Black
3-acre
walnut.
stormwater if we take the road over.
I thought we specifically talked about not doing that.
We can't, no matter what. I talked to Brendan today and that's
So
the
if we take
question.
over the road,
We have to be
We pay
part
our
of the
percentage of the 3
storm.
acres.
Yep.
So before we consider taking over that road, if we ever get the policy
Right.
adopted, we need to know exactly what
that's gonna mean
Mm-hmm.
financially.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that'll stay with them. And we're still not sure about, whether it's Sunset Ridge.
Right, that we're still waiting for the drone coverage that they went out and did. We had to send letters to the residents over there and just let them know that a drone will be flying over to get the,
We're not quite to Selectboard updates yet. So are we ready to make a motion to approve running that ad, or how do we want to move forward?
I think we probably need a little more job description.
On the one hand, I'd like to see what's gonna go out and get printed, but for us to see it, I mean, have a meeting, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I don't wanna wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No,
well, we can send
they
it,
can
can we
just-
send it?
That's
to email?
information. You can just send it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you can send that to us, we can go, great, sounds good. go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So assuming the language is decent and we don't have major changes, I'll make a motion to approve Paula to run an ad for a public works position for the town of Jericho.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Wait. Motion to approve liquor licenses, both for Griffin Riders for the Mansfield Barn, one tomorrow and one Saturday.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mhm.
Now we're at Selectboard Updates.
Okay. So you want to go first, Paula?
I just wanted to give an update on the, Old Pump Road that the guys did do the painting of the fog lines and the crosswalk and the yellow lines. So that is done. And, the other is the wastewater feasibility study, 90% is done, and that'll be presented at the next select board meeting.
Okay.
Great.
That is good. That is good. All right.
Regarding the town, the painting, which I was psyched, it was done like the next day or the day after, so I was psyched to see that. It doesn't do a lot. It doesn't do what I had hoped it would do. So I had like looked at it. It's not like, oh, now we're in great shape. Do we want to talk about what we talked about at that meeting, or is that, it was all executive session,
Yeah.
but
Well, some.
because there are people who are asking questions, want to know what the deal is, and we kind
We
of,
could say that, you know, we met with the Palmers.
what you're saying it now.
Yeah, but you can say that, you know, we did meet with the Palmers and talked about what they can do and where the town, what the town can and cannot do.
Yeah.
But like with what, Andrew sent an email to all of us, all this is, you know, designed for the long term so that when it's fixed, it's fixed. And it's gonna take some time, because like for the, what we talked about is, extending the apron, that's gonna take, that can't be done till next spring. We've talked about, you know, we're going to engage, the RPC to do the technical, analysis
Of the intersection.
of the intersection.
And it's in the apron, extending is paving down to somewhere in the range of the barn of Palmer's.
So, you know, because they could also, you know, maybe look at the parking issue, we don't know, but Palmer's has an idea for parking, but they have to work with the Von Turkoviches, and we can't
Talk about that.
talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's see. And we understand people really don't come to fines. But, and it's not, you know, it may not have been the job of the VSP, but because of the way it worked that day, that's what came out. And that's what also has happened in other towns. It's often on the residential side. Right, and they wanted to see, you know, a traffic study. Well, traffic study can't, you know, because that was also, Amber's email.
Yep.
But we can't do it. As he said, you want to see it when it's peak. Well, peak won't be until next year. So, I mean, we understand, I mean, traffic, fact is, we can put UPW in the UPWP, another traffic study. We did 2 of them this year in the UPWP. That one just has to be timed so it is during peak time. Anything you else want to say? But
No.
that's the parameters.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted you to say what we could say, which is great. So thank you for that. I think that we have to, in public, I think we have to talk about the part of parking signs, don't we? It's not.
Only if you're gonna take them away, or what are you gonna do with the no parking right now? I mean, are we gonna leave them, not leave them, you know?
I'm torn on that. I don't know if we can take action on it tonight without
Exactly,
a line item or not, but,
you can't. It has to be an actual agenda item if you're gonna do if you're gonna do an activity. Yeah, but you can talk about, but we need to find out.
We didn't have it.
we didn't have it. put them up.
We didn't have it warned anywhere to put them up.
Right.
Yeah,
And the other thing is, we need to find out from Claudine about this issue between ordinance, because we had talked, because I knew ordinances took a lot more effort. But Claudine said, no, we can just do policy and put no, and then they are enforceable with the policy.
My feeling is that I think they're, especially now that we're sort of, I mean, they've only got 60 more days that they're doing cranes. The bubble is pretty much burst.
that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We could we could pull them on the 16th.
And we'll have another meeting for that, so
And
that you can
have a
officially
whole
do
winter
that.
to think about.
Because we'll have another meeting, you know, close to that time that we can have actually a vote down.
Yeah,
My feeling, but
I wish I had a picture of what it looked like when the fire trucks go into the roof. That's what I really wish that I had.
Because that didn't happen, because they're talking about 2022 with what Adam said, but this happened in May of 2023. That
Or 24. Wasn't it this year?
Oh, it was this year, yeah,
24.
that was in the board.
May of 2024. And so this was a very unique, I mean, currently now, because up to this point, yes, parking was a pain, it's always been a pain. But that was the real issue, made it public safety.
My feeling is that I think the worst of the traffic is only whatever, 13 days left, and the worst of their traffic is over. Although global warming, who knows, it could be.
Yeah, we haven't had frost yet.
Right.
Can't believe we haven't had frost.
I think we should take the sign down. I would also be furious if that sign were, I mean, I know it's in the right of way, but if the sign was put a mile on, like a foot into my grass, I'd be pretty upset.
But it is the.
I know, but I'd still be upset.
So because we can't make an action without it being warned.
Or maybe actually,
Well,
we never warned bring them up.
Because we
We did a
took,
long time ago,
we took the action of
putting them up,
painting the
Road.
fog lines,
because we
right?
talked about that a long time ago as well.
Yeah,
And we also made the motion on the signs, you know, I talked about that, but I mean.
We never, we've never on the
No, that was an
agenda. We
agenda.
never had on the agenda, like no parking
No.
signs on Palmer Road.
Catherine's memory is generally better than mine, but I don't know about that one.
Okay, maybe.
If we, well, I feel like if we had warned putting
think
no
we
parking
did.
signs on Old Pump, we would have had a packed house.
Yeah.
Where are they going? What are they gonna say? How
That
long
could
are you
be-
up there? We would have
But
been,
we certainly talked about it a lot,
yeah, oh, for sure.
but,
I mean, I'm not sure how you guys feel about it. My feeling is,
but I would wait till the 16th, when they're done cleaning. If we're gonna do it. Because then it's over, and they don't have to live with it through winter.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I
I
just
really
feel
wish I
like-
had, I really wish I had a picture of what it looked like. I
I
know
know.
they say that they don't ever park there, but then I heard that they couldn't get down through. And I don't know
Yeah, I know,
how that looked. If it was
Right.
people on both sides down the road, I just don't
if it was
know.
someone to the right on the driver's side, but not tight enough over, and so like in the middle of the road, yeah.
we don't know.
I mean, I get it that
None of
they
us
talk,
were there, but you know, I guess lots of, you know, there was a lot of folks that were impacted, so I don't know.
I get that they talked with, they went and talked with Corey Lozier about it, but at the same time, someone was there and made a recommendation,
Right.
so like, the challenge for those of us watching or reading the minutes. I personally am not an expert in the right way to do traffic, right? I can visualize things. I'm a driver, so I can imagine it. I've experienced the issue. But when it comes to how do we make things better, I tend to look for professionals. I look to Tyler, our
Yeah.
road engineer who does this for a living. I look to policemen who deal with traffic for a living and traffic flow in general. And, so I tend to try to look to those people and, it's why I was frustrated the other night is I don't hear a ton of solutions to this problem. And I think a lot of the solutions impact people. What we
They do.
tried to do, I do tend to agree with the neighbors a bit that it is minimally or non-existent helpful and very impactful to those three people.
That's, the last thing you said is where, that's because like, to me, it's not really doing much. In my unprofessional, non-scientific, non-traffic engineering opinion, not doing very much, and it's jammed signs into people's front lawns.
I mean, the only thing it's done is if parking was weird on the, for the previous. And granted, that would be the Palmer's issue. I mean, because that is, you can lay that at the foot of the creamy stand. But if you have another residential sign, it guarantees that there is an open space all the way down. I mean, that's the thinking behind why you do what you did. But you're right, it does impact people disproportionately when they say they have to live with the parking anyway, which is a problem. I would leave the no parking except for loading and unloading sign right up front.
So we can remove the sign?
I mean, that's the one I think needs to stay, because
I
that,
don't know which one you mean,
because
sorry.
we put one right near the creamy people, the land itself, because there was supposed to be one there that was no parking except for loading and unloading, to make sure that somebody didn't decide.
Where was that?
Up by the actual stand area. There was supposed to be that sign, we talked about it at one.
There is.
Like up by the corner?
Yeah, by the corner.
Yeah, that's-
You don't want to have,
Yeah, we can leave that there for sure.
because that needs
So
to be.
where is that?
I think it's up by the Palmer's fence.
I can share, hang on, I'll share my screen.
Because that way, because people have tried to park there, and that really makes it crazy.
Right by the corner, by the fence.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right there, where your mouse is.
Right here.
Well. by
No,
the-
just
by the
go
letter P.
down.
By the letter P, I think, of pump, the first P.
Right there.
Isn't that what it is?
I don't think it is. I think it's further down a little bit. So it's just, yeah, I think it's further down by the car, like this, the barn that where the barrels are, I think.
I thought
It might be there, or I can't, I don't know. I'm just,
I thought though, when we talked to.
maybe it's up further, closer to the house.
But regardless of where it is.
Right.
No one's concerned about it.
Yeah, no,
Right.
People who are angry,
No.
are angry, and no
Right.
sign on their lots.
So we do need to have, make sure that's it, because that was because we tried to park up in the green space for, people sit and walk.
So are we telling Paula to have the road crew take those signs out? Those signs mean the no parking signs that are in front of those.
the 4 or whatever signs.
I'm trying to remember if Palmer's felt that they were helpful in it at all or not. They didn't.
They said they weren't. They said it wasn't really.
Then I think I'm in agreement. I don't like making motions, or it's not really a motion. It's more just,
Taking
but I
action.
do feel like we've directed road crew
Back and forth.
back and, to do some things that weren't line items on here. So I think this one will go a long way towards public will, doesn't help the parking situation at all, but people at least
I
understand.
don't
that
think it
we've
makes
been
it
working.
worse. I don't think it makes it worse.
Probably doesn't make it worse.
No. And unfortunately, Adam didn't really want to do much over in that area anyway. I mean, he really didn't like signs there. He did because people talked about putting them on the posts up in the green area.
Yeah, it is true that some of the past staff talked about the inability to enforce.
Right.
Why put it up if you can't enforce it?
Yeah, which I understand that line, but also
Well,
but
yes,
just like with masks, right? When we did masks,
Right.
like
we're not gonna
we
arrest
did a
you.
mask mandate for a
We're not
little
gonna
bit.
arrest you,
We're not
but-
gonna arrest you. We're not gonna come up to you, but it probably deters some people from wearing them, and it probably helps. So
Right.
that's kind of where I'm at with it.
So that's basically the same kind of thing. You're right.
Yeah. I don't know, Catherine. I think we should pull them out. Sorry, Paula.
No
Make sure you
worries.
tell the road crew that they did a great job
They did
putting
nothing
them up
wrong,
as
right.
instructed.
They
And
did what we asked them to.
Mhm. Yep,
I think it's the best thing for the town right now to get them out.
So those were your updates.
I had, Paula, I had one,
Okay, great. And I have that.
just an update from the JCDC meeting. The only thing I can think of is I get a little confused about all the processes involved in development. And so thank God Joe is on our JCDC now, and can help with some of those things. So we had test pits dug.
Oh, you did? Oh, great.
No, we did that a year.
Yeah, I wonder what, that showed, kind of stuff,
We had them dug. We got a report from somebody, remember? And he
Oh, that's
said,
right,
and
yeah.
he said, based on that, blah, 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 it can support 5 bedrooms. So we had that done.
And 5
But
bedrooms
we-
isn't much,
No, it's not much,
Yeah.
but
5 more.
it's 5 more than we have.
right?
But what we didn't get, and what we keep hearing about, is the wetland designation. And so we had a little bit, like, I walked over there with Karina Daly and John, and I walked, and she gave us like her opinion, but not like an official, like, So what Joe recommended, and what Chris has recommended too, is to just get a real wetland designation to see what is and what isn't, and by a professional, and have it done.
And you're right, now I recall when it came to the septic, if you did one of the fancier systems,
You could potentially be more.
do more,
Yeah.
yeah, and which is what I would make the most economic sense.
Yeah.
Because then you can put in duplexes.
Right.
That look like big house, little house barn,
Um,
to blend with the neighborhood.
it seems like we need that. So Joe gave us a name of somebody. So we're thinking about doing that. Is that something that it's under, Joe threw out a rough guess of around between $500 and $800 to have that done. Is that all right to go ahead? It's under $500. I mean, it's under $5,000. So, but I just felt like sharing it with you guys so you don't see
Yeah, I think.
our committee out there spending money like.
Because theoretically, we had set aside ARPA funding to move that process along, because you don't have any funding from the JCDC. Because we wanted to make sure that houses can be built, and so, but Ryan, because of the way, if it's been allocated now, it's embedded in other things, but surely there's, way that it can be brought out again. How it can be spent.
Cool.
We just need to,
So that was my only update there.
Ryan will figure out how it's allocated.
The first guy we called isn't able to do it this season, so he was like on for spring. So we're gonna try to see if we can get someone else just to get it. And really, that's just to get information. We still don't have. We're working towards a recommendation of what we do with that property to bring to the board that we don't have yet.
Mm.
I don't know what we want to do. There's lots of different options that we're tossing around, and I just feel like the more information we get, the more they help us inform that. At some point, we'll have to make a recommendation, but I think information just helps us do that.
Yeah, and because you want to maximize the use of the property for, perpetually affordable.
Mhm.
So it makes sense to do that, absolutely. That's good. Oh, cookies, I have, okay. There's my update. Well, this is from the Jericho Energy Task, the Energy Task Force. October 19th, we had hoped to have a repair cafe, but there was a communications glitch, and so that didn't work. We're looking at a potential date in November, but although we have a list of volunteers who may be available, there's a shortage of task force members at the moment who are able to help with the one. So I don't have any other help. I'm not going to do it myself. Sorry. I had a nice chair-to-chair meeting. It was held last week. And most chairs or representative was able to attend. Sabina, who is not a chair, came because she wanted to speak in the first few minutes of the meeting to talk about the town website and to remind people about the timelines to get the agendas out and the minutes posted. And they also started a discussion about the website itself and potential changes to the website.
Yeah.
And then one of the chairs asked a question if there was tracking of traffic on the website to know if people really looking at it. And she said that's a potential that you can do, yes.
Mhm.
And then
She had that, I think.
You can do that.
You should be able to get that.
Yeah,
She said, I know when all you were on here, like.
Right.
Yeah, you can,
But
yeah, you
she-
can
but she
tell.
was- the chairs asked to track it for us, and she said, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she knew she could, but the chair didn't know because he
I
wanted,
gotcha. I thought Sabina was like, yeah, we can do that. I'm like,
because they wanted to know if
who was, the people were looking at their stuff.
people wouldn't pay attention to what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people want to know. And so then each committee, presented and discussed projects being worked on as well as specific issues they had had. One of the other interesting ones was Lindsay Hallman from the chair of the Town Library Trustees. She also talked about a committee that serves Jericho and Underhill, which she's a volunteer, which is the Essex Community Justice Center. And she said it is very rare to see calls from Jericho or cases from Jericho. Wondered if people know about it. And based on the response, it was very clear that nobody knew about it.
What is it?
It's restorative justice
Huh.
issues, and they work with, people that, you know, might have done minor stuff or, you know, or exiting, and help work with the people who were impacted as well as the person who perpetrated it. It's restorative justice. And she said it was very clear that was a little known fact that Jericho was actually part of this group as it goes to Underhill as well. And so she's going to actually be, she wants to be able to table at the
Oh, great.
at the kickoff meeting.
Saturday.
So people know about it. I mean, restorative justice is a very important thing. There's a big group down in maybe down in Burlington that does a lot of work with restorative justice. And I didn't write any notes, brought those notes, but I had my chair-to-chair notes. But Paula and I today with Brian, who is our geotechnical engineer, and Sue Richardson, as well as two folks from ECI, talk about the rocks and where we are in the process. And they will be sending us another formal proposal, what it will cost to actually finish the job, to really clean up the rocks, move things around, so that the water level around the building and the foundation will be protected for a very, very long time. But they're slightly over budget now and will be more over budget. But Paula knows that there is money in the fund to do it. And but we will have to approve it because it's more than $5,000. So that'll be on the next agenda. Sue's, I came in and she was talking, Sue Richardson was talking to Paula about, and she then mentioned it to Brian, geotechnical, about what they were talking about for the foundation work. And what the engineer from, that works with preservation,
Vermont
Vermont
Preservation.
is super into, you know, making sure everything is done correctly. And what they are proposing is a significant cost, because she talked about taking it, but part of the foundation on that one section, apart rock by rock by rock, and then mentioning every one, and then rebuilding. Because of the building slide. But our geotechnical engineer said, no, you don't have to do it that way. So there's going to be a site visit to discuss that, and I hope that, you know, there is an understanding, because the wall itself will never be fixed if that foundation under that proposal goes forward, because it will take so long and so much money to do. Because he felt that the slippage was probably 100 plus years ago, based on what he's seeing.
That surprised me a bit.
Wasn't your grandfather on the board back then?
Yeah, your little comment about it might never get worked on. Boy, I'll tell you, that's not much of a stretch.
You know, yeah, because the grant will be long gone before that foundation is fixed. And so it's hoping that the site visit and the two engineers, because one is a historic engineer and the other one is a geotechnical, his great story is because he's really invested in historical buildings, and works a lot with them. But he works and does all kinds of court cases across the country as the expert witness, and if anybody's ever driven the road in Glacier, and you go through these crenellated walls, there was becoming a safety issue because they were
Shearing off.
shearing off. He actually did the project that from the back where you can never see it,
Mhm.
pulled those crinolines in and they won't fall down, but don't look like you've touched them.
Wow.
So he's saying you can do things and leave the front is without touching the front. So you still have your historic structure, but you do things from behind that support the building and support
Within the foundation.
and fix the foundation from the inside.
Yeah, that's true. I had to have some work done on a house and they, like the wall is like, what do you call it? The cement block wall,
Mhm.
and it's kind of like doing that.
Pinching it,
Yeah,
yeah.
or I guess,
Towing out or in,
I guess it was going in, yeah, it was going in, and
Yeah.
so they were able to like.
go up.
Yeah,
Because part of the problem is in the 1850s, I think it was, they cut the doorway into the lower level. And never supported it properly. And that's why things are,
oh, yeah,
but that was the 1850s, so.
that was probably my great grandfather did that.
But, so that's what I have, but the chair-to-chair meeting was very good, there were a lot of, projects that they were working on as well as specific issues that, they had.
Does anybody have questions for us or things they wanted us doing or?
The question is, mobs was, like mobs and the Trails Committee would like to be able to, because their work time frame spans 2 fiscal years. Because they can't start in the spring and then it runs into into the next one. So they're wondering if there's some mechanism that can be handled so that they can, access funds across that span.
Yeah.
So that they have it all for the projects, because otherwise it's very hard for them to ask for bids for projects. Because MOMS has some bridge failures. And
What's the answer to that question?
The answer is they can do it. The way that it was explained to them was very complex. Yes, it can be done. It just, they take the money. What would happen is the money that they didn't expend in, say, 2024, we can just move it over into something, into like the reserves or something. So then you can just put, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
oh, and then there was MOMS had a very sad story. Everybody was very upset about it too. But it's legal, but it hasn't, but typically they only allow hunting in the fall when they make sure that everybody was wearing blaze orange. And there, people are out there. People used firearms in July and killed a mother coyote and all her bucks
Mm-hmm.
and left them there.
That's all.
No, and people were saying, what if a little kid, because it could have been somebody's dog or somebody's child. So they're hoping somebody recognizes or can come forward and talk about who did the shooting. Because
When did that happen in July?
I think they said this was even July, and they were shocked because the other thing is, what if a family was walking along and came across this? Everybody was like, oh my gosh. And then because the planning commission is working on an official map eventually, and the trails committee is also working on trails. The DRB said, it'd be nice to have the updated trail map because when you come to the DRB with a subdivision, they only get one bite at the apple. And they want to make sure that they have the information when they need it. And let's see. Jeff had a real interesting question about the DRB. And he said, what happens if the select board chooses to overrule the DRB? And how is that handled? And I said, well, I don't think it's really been
I don't think it's happened.
very, there was once,
Is he anticipating something? Is it?
I don't know, he didn't say that, they were wondering what would, should.
Well, there was, there was something that came up, right, where
Well,
we
okay.
were asked to,
Right.
and he came that, he
Okay,
came for that
yeah,
meeting to just
yeah.
kind of be like, you could tell he was concerned
What
about
do you
what
guys
might
mean
happen.
doing this?
Right. Yeah. But,
I have no idea.
I mean, so we haven't, we choose not to overrule them, 'cause
Could we, is that power?
Mhm.
We could.
you could. You could.
I thought they were like a statute, like a state.
It's one of those really weird things, right? They're like kind of, but not, sort of, so like you're. you're always-
Especially if it goes to Act 250.
I thought they weren't actually underneath us.
They're not, if it goes to Act 250, then it's really the town as opposed to the DRB. And it's a de novo kind of thing again and stuff. But, the real, the big blow up was around when Dollar General was being built.
Hmm.
And that's the biggest. And Susan talked about, you know, for the committees to look at the town plan and, you know, see how it works, you know, how, what your work
Yeah.
schedule and how it fits together. And then Tom, from conservation has a lot, he would like to add more members. He's, because they can't participate in other committees, like committees are serving on theirs because they don't feel they have enough, thing. And they, you know,
Forum.
he needs more people, he really wants more folks.
Has more
because-
people stepped down?
I don't know, I know they're short of.
Like he wants to fill his table, or he wants to increase the size, I'm making this up, if
I
there's
think
7
he-
people, he wants to reach to 7, or he wants them expanded to 12.
I think he has 9, I think he's allowed to have 9 and he only has 7 or something like that, 6 or 7.
Okay, he just wants more,
Mm.
he wants to fill
Fill
the
the
slots
slots.
he has,
He
not, he
wants-
doesn't want more slots, he
Right.
wants more people to fill. the
Right,
slots.
it's because particularly with the amount of work that they do, you know, because they've got the dam project, they do the cleanup there, and the town forest work and, the ash tree stuff,
Mhm.
things like that. He wasn't sure about the budget. Again, he also asked about the budget dynamics, you know, which he just did. And then, he would like, when talking about new members, he'd like to at least, as they add new members, he wants to be able to, have more people work with, matching dollars to secure grants and things like that, you know, so he has better, because he's got a lot of people that know how to do grants and things like that. They actually had some good grants
Hmm.
because the things that, so there was that.
It's a powerful committee. Look at that.
Oh.
It's Karina, it's.
Yeah,
Mhm,
these are
mhm.
strong professionals.
Yeah, for sure they are.
Very strong
Yeah.
professionals.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah.
almost all of them are professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, having more members would also, allow them to, you know, secure their grants and. He's, you know, completed the money that, with the grant, with the interns, they were finished a complete ash inventory,
Mhm.
which is pretty darn impressive.
Yeah.
Because it was right away, mobs and, Mills Riverside. And all the town properties. And so, then he wants to complete the town nursery project by the town garage.
Oh, yeah, forget about that.
And then went on about long-term stuff. Like ghost dams. With that ghost dam study is near 30% scoping right now.
Hmm.
And let's see, the NRO, we talked about that, because that's working with the, planning commission anyway. Trails committee, they're working, on updated maps for, Kikas and mobs and working with the land trust, Wolf Run, refresh the trail post there. They talked about all the work they did for the JES trail by Griswold, and how it is. They're also putting a bike repair station at JES.
What does that mean? Like,
Bike repair that you can
but
have
like with,
little minor repairs that you can do.
by yourself,
Yeah,
there's like tools there that.
yeah, and air pump and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And, nobody has, and then he said, like, the Jericho Town Forest, nobody has laid claimed to being the one taking care of it for the trails.
Hmm.
So they're gonna look into, redoing some, because there's been some, damage and stuff there. And, they're, talking about the sidewalk projects and things like that. And they want to collaborate with others so that they can close loops, which is what, DRB is saying about one bite of the apple to making. So it was a very, very thorough meeting. Good. Really good stuff, but. So, won't update, but it was good. And so we don't have warrants tonight, but we do have minutes of,
Well, before that, I have a,
oh, you have some.
less of an update, more of a question.
Okay,
Something that feels like it's been kind of hanging out there is someone, I'm guessing from the planning commission, but maybe it was SJ or someone said that we got the Affordable Housing Committee report.
Yep.
And recommendations,
Mhm.
and then we didn't really do anything. We didn't say yes, make these things happen, or move this all forward, or we don't like this one, but what about this one? And that is sort of in the same category, I feel like, as in our meeting with the planning commission, we talked about us having a calendar, or if we have a standing part of the agenda, okay, town plan, what's the next thing we have to get moving forward?
yeah,
And so I'm just wondering how we don't lose that idea and that to make the town plan something that we're hey, planning commission, we need this from you, or what do you need from us?
Because I remember that night though, we did recognize the work they did, we
Mhm.
did just thank you very much and move on. We recognized the amount of work they did and said, what you're talking about, the highest priority was all, zoning regulation,
Mhm.
which needs to go to, planning. Commission
Yep.
Before we,
Do we know that those are all part of what they're currently working on?
some I think are. But the one that Chuck really always cranky about is not, but
Which is the,
some sections, 5.6 or something like that.
This is
Oh,
the density thing.
yeah.
But.
I know they are
Susan
working
had
on
talked-
that,
But
right?
Susan had said that she had talked to David about, seeing what they could do this go round about that. So it wouldn't maybe the fullest reiteration of density, but at least she had talked to, David about that in the bylaws. So, and that's what the planning commission said. They hope to have it to us by December, the new updates. So that, they go through their process and then we go through our public hearing process.
Right. And so Paula, do you have a handle on the planning commission's work around that? Is this all under the bylaw modernization?
Yes.
Do you have a sense of where that all, not the details of it, but just like you just said, December, is that gonna get to us in December?
That's
Maybe you don't
that's the
know because there's no
plan.
planner right now.
Yeah, that's the plan, is to have it by
That's why-
December.
We need to work with them as well,
Okay,
so that it doesn't, so they don't have that drop in activity.
okay.
so if they get those to us and we like them and we approve them.
They go into effect, there's I think it's a 45-day
Yeah.
waiting period.
But so they'd be in place by spring
Mhm.
construction season.
Yeah, because what happens is, 45 days, both sets are in play.
Oh, fun.
But if you're going to something new, they encourage you to do the new one. But if somebody puts a petition together during that 45 days, they have to be voted.
Yeah.
And they could be voted down.
But my question was just about, we had talked about having kind of a calendar and sort of just not losing track of the big sort of moving the town forward stuff. And I'm just wondering if that's something we can maybe talk about in the next, if it's a decision item, talk about it on the next agenda. Or just where, because what I heard.
We should probably publicly state where we are
Right.
with our opinions, because those are their recommendations to us, and we
On the
should,
affordable housing stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
that.
we
We
talked
should
to-
be like, okay,
Here's,
we've had them, we've thought about them.
and here.
This was the
then-
priority
here-
because all the first highest priorities were all zoning.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the wastewater. But, we're moving.
But there's more than that. There's more than just zoning and wastewater. There were 5 different
Right,
pieces of.
but the the priority line, because I remember there was a presentation and off to the side of the priorities, and most of the top ones were zoning and then wastewater.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying, I'd like to, if you guys are amenable, to look at the town plan. So I feel like the planning commission is saying to us, we don't know if you are interested in doing these things or not, if you want us working on them or wasting our time working on them, or are you guys waiting for us to approve them? And I'd like to just look at
Basically,
that.
we're waiting for them to get it over to us at this point, because that's the biggie right there. is we're
Yeah.
waiting
The
on-
bylaws,
Waiting for the bylaws.
yes.
Because that's the biggie. It's gonna make, it's supposed to make a huge difference in Riverside.
The other actions, or I call them actions, but they're whatever, getting it done.
Getting it done thing.
You know, Chris Shaheen is definitely trying to get up to speed on all of that, and you know, it's a little complex reading the town plan, he said, but you know, one of their actions is the official map, but before you do the official map, there's steps that you have to take in order to get to that point.
Right.
So he's seeing that, you know, they are wanting to get the official map, but you have to do these steps in order to get there. So he is, I think he'll be a great asset for the town and the planning commission. I really do.
And the select board?
And the select
Not so
board.
much us. but-
Yeah.
But I think, yeah. But yeah, I think it'll be good.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
sometimes we play the waiting game because we know they're working on it, but we can't do anything until it gets to our table.
Mhm.
And then, you know, and then there's because they have one. person.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is now the minutes of September 19th. I wish, you know, we don't find out until afterwards that we don't get all the names that are on remote. Because I don't know who Stacy was. That was line 14.
14. Stacy.
Line 14, remote attendance, Darren Schibler and Stacy.
I might have that.
And then,
Well,
I
means
don't
if
know
I
whether
do.
it's important, but line 12, of course, was also part of it, because it said several other residents of Gravel Drive.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that.
Oh,
That's not great.
No.
well,
We know one of them.
it was Bill and another gentleman.
Yeah, and they are listed as, it was, Dan Gregor and then Bill R.
And Lathan. Lathan was one of them.
Lathan is the other resident, one of the other, but there was somebody else too. Seems to me there were two people. in
Yeah,
that.
there's a woman.
Yep. Yeah, I thought there was a woman here.
Who
Yeah,
was.
Yeah,
I don't know
Okay.
who that was.
okay.
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I have to go back and reminding people to sign in. And then select board
He
updating.
was signing in. I saw him all walk up to him.
Yeah, I might have it on the sign-in sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you want me to change it if there is?
yeah,
Yeah,
if you have it, that would be good, because it isn't,
Yep.
you know, it's more transparent if you have who they were. In select board updates, this is line 271, this is. You're talking about the stop sign. But on the walking path, but it's listed, but first you got.
Oh, no,
Walter Hill, but
it's not.
I didn't get a chance to read this whole thing, so I'm sorry. What line?
It-
Line 271.
Yeah, you know,
It's on-
honestly, I said that,
Brown's
but it's really
Trace.
both of them. It really is both of them, because the one,
You're talking
Not-
about
not
Brown's Trace,
Bulger
right?
Hill.
Brown's Trace- You're talking about Brown's Trace. and
Pratt
River,
Road and Ethan Allen Road is what you were talking about.
That
Where the-
intersection,
the-
the bottom of the
Did I
hill.
say Boulder Hill?
Yeah,
Isn't
I don't know,
Stone
but
Hill, or whatever the name of that hill is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of.
On Brown's Trace, right?
Yeah.
The intersection of Brown's Trace,
Yeah.
and Lee River, and Ethan Allen.
Yeah.
Ranch Road.
yeah, that's
But it's
the,
also at the top.
Pratt Road.
Pratt Road. It was Pratt Road.
Yeah.
It's at Pratt and.
Yeah.
It's a big stop sign, and if
Yep.
you're not from here, you're gonna
You're
stop
not gonna
there.
stop
And if
there.
you stop there, coming the direction, going down that hill, that's real dangerous.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right,
Okay,
It's very neat.
So we just need a smaller sign. Oh, I know we're just doing that.
he's gonna be doing that too. I
Okay.
did let him know.
Right.
Okay, so I
Yeah,
changed that.
You did catch the back on the, 277, because you did set Pratt Road Dave's attention, so, I mean, you did get the fact that it was Pratt Road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she lived, the woman that talked to me about it lives on Pratt Road, but I'm pretty sure she was talking about the one at now.
Mm.
So that's good. So that's all I have to think of.
Okay,
Motion to approve the minutes as amended. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Motion to go into executive session because premature disclosure of the information will be detrimental to the parties involved for reasons of personnel and legal.
So, sorry, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.